Officials in Detroit are reportedly considering a controversial new plan to save their city from financial ruin by using the president's health care overhaul to offset the fact that they've just become the biggest city in U.S. history to file for bankruptcy. The Motor City owes some $5.7 billion in retiree health care costs, and now officials are apparently considering pushing folks onto the president's plan who are too young to qualify for Medicare. And while the administration has vowed that the U.S. taxpayer will not be paying for a Detroit bailout, if this plan goes through, it could mean U.S. taxpayers will end up footing the bill for more than just Detroit retirees. Michelle Malkin is a columnist and Fox News contributor and joins us now to discuss. All right, Michelle, we've been told no federal money allegedly is going to Detroit to help with the bailout. This might be a backdoor way to make that happen, though.
Yeah, it might not even be a backdoor. I really think that this is a front door bailout, and it's turned Obamacare into the mother of all bailout vehicles. It's not a surprise to anyone who saw that from the beginning, the Obamacare architects were constructing a way to basically facilitate this cost-shifting stampede. And what Detroit is doing is not actually new, because a couple of months ago, Rahm Emanuel and the city of Chicago announced that they were going to do the same kind of thing, dump their retirees or near retirees onto the Obamacare system. And it is a huge injustice, not only to hardworking taxpayers who have been responsible, but to people who live in cities and states and localities that have not racked up these huge, massive, unfunded liabilities.
Yeah, and you mentioned in Chicago where, of course, there's a lawsuit pending now by a lot of folks who that's not the solution they're looking for. I mean, a lot of them say they took public jobs, they stayed in them for a long time because of the benefits that pay off long term. You may, in a lot of cases, make less in the public sector in the short term, but the benefits are, for a lifetime for many folks. We now understand that 61 major cities in the U.S., there's $126 billion in retiree health care commitment, and all but 6% of it is unfunded. So I imagine this is going to go past Detroit. If it works, I can imagine a lot of other cities where they're going to say, let's put these folks on the exchanges, and that's not free.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to add up to trillions more in costs for all of us who are paying for the Obamacare bill. It is a massive sea of red ink. And there are a couple of things I think that, if they weren't so awful, would be somewhat amusing. Of course, hanging over all of this is that phony promise from President Obama that if you like your health care, you can keep it under Obamacare. And now we have all of these public employee union workers, government workers, who are balking at the prospect of being forced into the very plan that their union bosses foisted on the rest of us.
Well, kind of interesting. Professor Timothy Jost, who is a law professor at Washington and Lee, he makes some really interesting points, and he's really followed the law and its implementation as we've seen it roll out. He says, this is mandatory spending. If Detroit and other cities put these retirees onto the exchanges, it's mandatory government spending. So it's not like the feds can say, we didn't expect this, we can't pay for it. He also notes that if it does work for some of these retirees, they can actually have to pay more ending up in the exchange than they would, obviously, if they stayed under the plan they thought they were going to get. And the one that a lot of times they agreed to other concessions or deals because they thought they were getting those benefits. There's a third category here, though, of people who may not qualify for Medicare, and they may also not qualify to get into these exchanges. Is it possible that Detroit and these other cities could actually leave these retirees with zero health care options? Because I don't think that was the purpose of Obamacare.
All trenchant points, and I think that analysis points up to the fact that, yes, there will be a lot of these orphan workers or retirees who have nowhere else to go. I think it's going to be a huge legal headache and thicket for years to come. And then, of course, we're operating under this fantastical assumption that these healthcare exchanges are going to be up and working at some point, if any. Remember that HHS announced that delay in the dead of night right before a vacation weekend, that they were not going to be ready by 2014, which we all knew, many of us, from the very get-go. This whole thing has been a huge charade. It's blowing up in their faces, and the only recourse they have left is to plead with Hollywood celebrities to sell it to delusional young people.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if it sells in Detroit, Chicago, or anywhere else. Michelle, thank you.
You bet, Shannon.